Welcome to Crafty Little Beach. This is Julie. Today I have a Dollar Tree DIY for you. I'm always trying to find creative items to use at the Dollar Tree, right? I picked up one of these dustpans from the Dollar Tree because I thought this would give me the look I was going for on this fairy garden where I can make it look like there's a door going into a grassy hill. So that's my plan with this one. I thought the shape of the little dustpan would be perfect. It does have a little plastic cup that was covering the opening here on the top. That was like a temporary cover, but I don't want anything to get in here, so I'm just going to reattach that with a little bit of hot glue. And I want to cover the entire thing with some of this faux grass from the Dollar Tree Plus section for Easter. I love using this stuff. It's so fun to craft with. I wanted to cover the entire back wall like that and to go over to look like a little grassy hill. So I cut off a piece that's large enough to do that. And then the challenge is how to make this work with it needing to go on the bottom, the sides, the outside. I'm going to try to frame this around like this. And I wanted to cover the back as well here. So I am going to start by attaching it to the back here of the little dustpan with hot glue. And this is one of the dustpans that I guess that you put the little broom handle into. I am just using that bottom piece there from the Dollar Tree. I hot glue that to the bottom. It doesn't have to go all the way flush with the bottom. I'm going to use this fairy garden outside. And I want to put it in with my landscaping to make it really look like it goes with the landscaping. So make it look like grass. I put some hot glue on the inside of the lip like that, gluing that down and curving the grass around. Now to do the sides, I am going to have to do some cutting to make this work. There's going to be just too much of the grass fabric. So I cut it where I can make it go exactly where I want it to go, basically cutting the bottom section. I'm going to attach that first with a little bit of hot glue here, pushing it back so it goes straight up to that back. That's where I'm going to have our little fairy garden door. And then I wrap it around here. I want it to kind of make sense. I think that is going to work like that. And so I do have too much material here. I'm going to cut down a little triangle out of that. So I have enough for the wall, and then I can have it wrap around the side like that. So it was a little challenging to get this to fit such a crazy shape, but we're going to make it work. And I'm going to save those pieces that I trim off to cover the rest of the bottom of it so I don't have to waste too much of the artificial grass. I do the same thing here on the other side, just cutting out a triangle and hot gluing that to the side, and it's doing a really good job of keeping that shape. Now I was pulling and tugging on this so much that I pulled this off a little bit, so definitely make sure you give your hot glue some time to set up there. Here on the back, I'm going to have the same issue working around this area, probably a little bit too much of the grass. So I'm going to cut it right about there, pull this tight, see how much extra grass I have, and then I can trim that off as well. So little square or a rectangle on both sides, I guess. And I'm going to pull this tight. A little bit of the grass is going to be on the bottom, but it worked. And again, I pull it tight. As you can see, that faux grass from the Dollar Tree has a black lining like that that can be a little bit visible. So whenever you cut and work with it, you're going to want to hide that a little bit to make it blend in with the grass. But that looks pretty good so far. I do want to cover the entire rest of it with grass so it can have a grassy lawn here as well for the little fairy. And so just using my scrap pieces that I just trimmed off, I'm going to put them together a little bit like a puzzle. I'm going to be decorating this with lots of things, so it definitely doesn't have to be perfect. But if there's too much black sticking out around the edges, I just go in and trim that off and just piecing it all together to cover the rest of it. And who would know that that was a little dustpan? In the end, the shape worked out exactly like I thought it would. Now I do have a little piece, a little parts here where you can see some of the black through. I'm going to use a few more of those scrap pieces to patch it together, just to try to cover up any of the black, make it look really nice. I think that looks pretty good. This is the fairy garden door that I got. It is probably the medium size. It's not the real big ones that are freestanding. This one comes in a package like this, and it's a perfect height for this project. I'm going to attach it to the faux grass with some hot glue here. And maybe now you can see my vision a little bit where I want the fairy garden door to lead into a grassy hill like the fairy garden house is underground. Now to decorate the yard, I'm going to use one of the little fairy garden chairs with the flower on there. It's got a pink flower. The door has pink accents on there as well and a pink door. So I wanted to use a lot of pink items on this. I think it looks great with the green. This is the fairy that I'm going to use for this one. She's got a green skirt, pink wings, very cute. She doesn't fit in the chair very well, but I think I can hot glue her in there and make that work. And I want her to be sitting in front of her little fairy garden. I thought I would give her a nice fountain for the yard as well. It's not a super big fairy garden, but there is room for little pieces like this. I found a little welcome sign from a package for the fairy garden at the Dollar Tree and a little sidewalk that looks like it's made out of wood, like a little deck that we can have go all the way back to the doorway. I do want to hot glue these down so they will stay in place, so I glue the little welcome sign, the little chair here over in the corner of her yard where she's going to be sitting in it. Really, you can only put some hot glue right there on the corner and have her sit almost on the edge of the seat to make her fit. And I tried the other fairy as well. Neither one of them fit in there very well. And then I'm going to have the fountain directly in the front of her house and the sidewalk leading out to it. I want to do some gravel on this too to make a little road and, landscape out our area. I attached my walkway with hot glue as well. This is what it looks like so far with the fairy garden items from the Dollar Tree. I'm actually going to use bath salt from the Dollar Tree for the gravel just because I found that it was about the right size. It's white. It smells nice. And I am going to put that on the sides of the sidewalk too to make it look like her yard is landscaped. And it goes out to the little fountain directly in the front of her house where I thought I would go all the way around, do like a little roundabout here in front of her house. And I can even do a road with this bath salt as well for gravel. You could also use the little white pebbles from the Dollar Tree. These are a little bit smaller, so I kind of like them for this scale. So I'm going to go both directions with the little gravel road in front of the little fairy garden house. I think that provides a lot of interest. I wanted to add a little greenery behind her and behind the welcome sign to break up all of that grass. So I'm going to use some of this greenery right here from the Dollar Tree. The colors are definitely a different color of green, but I like the variety of the green. This one almost has a fern-like leaf on there. I thought that would be fun and wild to kind of put here on the other side to provide a little bit more interest. And then I want to add some of this baby's breath from the Dollar Tree. Since this is a smaller scale, I am going to cut these down into individual pieces and scatter these around. I do make sure that there is some of the white flowers on each one of these. If not, I cut off the green stems that are just bare. But I'm just going to attach them one by one, dipping them in a little dot of hot glue and gluing those down into the grass. It provides a great option for a tiny flower from the Dollar Tree. And then these are the other baby's breath from the Dollar Tree that are little tiny flowers. They're definitely the smallest flowers I find from the Dollar Tree. I'm always trying to buy small flowers. They just seem to work well for DIYs, and they're a little bit harder to find at most of my Dollar Trees than the larger ones I've noticed. I do the light pink ones, cutting off a small stem and using hot glue to attaching those to the grass, and I'm just scattering those all over. I also have them in this bolder color of pink for some variety. I want it to look like her yard is completely filled with wildflowers, and so I'm going to scatter those around as well. And the two different pink flowers really go with all the pink that I'm going for with the color scheme. I do want to mix in a little purple too, though. I'm going to use a little tiny foam mushrooms from the Easter aisle at the Dollar Tree. And these are the little tiny ones. So there's tiny ones and then there's a little bit bigger one. I'm going to use these lavender ones. I think that's going to look really cute mixed together with the pink. And I'm just cutting off the entire wire from the bottom of these and putting a dot of hot glue on the bottom. I also have these in light pink, so I'm going to add some pink mushrooms as well. Goes great in a fairy garden. You can even put them up on your hill like this for a little bit of fun. And I'm thinking that's looking really good. The only thing I wanted to do was cover up the sides here in the front where you could still see a little bit of that black mat coming through from the grass and a little bit of the black from the front of that dustpan. And so I'm just going to use some reindeer moss and add some moss to the grass, but just here on the front and the sides. It's going to add another piece of greenery, make it a little bit more interesting. And I want to put this back in my landscaping in my yard so it really looks like it is a fairy garden that I built outside and it's part of the greenery and stuff like that. And this was a fun option. So I'm glad that I decided to use the dustpan. I just thought it would be the perfect shape for this and it really turned out well. So again, a little bit of moss here in the front and to cover up here on where you might be able to see some of the black coming through right there on the side. Since this is the front of it, I want that to look the absolute best. I thought maybe just a few more flowers, and I do have some of the lavenders from the Dollar Tree. Since I added the lavender mushrooms, I thought maybe I could add a few lavender flowers too. So I'm just going to cut a couple of these, put a little dot of hot glue on the ends of these, and glue those down into the grass. I'm going to do one on each side. And then I think it just needs a little bit more of the baby's breath, the little white ones, to decorate the front, and maybe one more mushroom. And this is how it turned out. I think it's so sweet. Let me give you a look around this little fairy garden. A fun way to use one of those little fairy garden doors like that from the Dollar Tree. I was really pleased with their selection of fairy garden items this year at the Dollar Tree. They have so many cute items.